birds flying high. You know how I feel. Sun in the sky. You know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by. You know how I feel. It's a new dawn. It's a new day. It's a new life. And I'm feeling good. Fish in the sea. You know how I feel. River running free. You know how I feel. Blossom on the tree. You know how I feel. It's a new dawn. It's a new day. It's a new life.
After Daytona, our drivers hop on the virtual plane and jet across the country to Arizona. But it's going to be a stark contrast from the high banks and pack racing that Florida had to offer. With only a mile in length, everyone's going to have to get a little comfy with one another as we get ready to watch round 2 of the Goat Locker Racing Truck Series presented by Jam Printing and Promotions. You'll see it all live here on Podium Esports. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Roush Racing driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director, Eddie Smith, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Joey, I'm looking forward to this one. This is definitely among the more unique tracks in terms of NASCAR.
Well, unique, and talk about a complete 180 opposite of what we saw last week with Daytona Superspeedway. Now we're really going to kind of get the elbows out here at Phoenix, a completely different style of racetrack, less than a mile and a half long in comparison to the 2.5 mile Superspeedway that we just saw. So you're right, definitely got some character out here, and I think that we're going to see maybe even a different group, a different crop of drivers come up to the front just with a natural different driving style.
That's a good point. Short track racing is a very different skill from the super speedway pack racing that we saw before. Speaking of going from round 1 to round 2, why don't we take a look at the schedule here as Kostek won that first race. We hop over to Phoenix, and then it's another mile track next time out at Dover. And then we head up to a mile and a half with Homestead, Miami. And then we'll really have to switch gears, actually kind of literally with Watkins Glen putting them through the paces of that gearbox, no doubt, going road racing off in February. So definitely a very different schedule from week to week here to kick things off for the Goat Locker Racing Truck Series. And I do believe we're going to be having a bit of a chat with one of our drivers competing here today. We've got Brandon Evans joining us. Brandon, we were just talking about the shifting going from the super speedway here to a short track 1 mile oval. Do you have a preference between the two of which you like, the big ones or the little ones?
Yeah, I think the mile tracks or the mile and a half tracks are my favorite. The super speedways are just such a crapshoot. I prefer something that it's not as much so a drafting track in the truck. I like Phoenix. I mean, you have to have a little bit of drafting help, but it's really a driver's track. Tracks like New Hampshire would probably be another good example, or maybe even Dover. Tracks like Las Vegas or Charlotte, Kansas for that matter. Drafting help and setting up passes and having teammates, that stuff comes into it. Again, I really do like the tracks that you have to be a little bit more individual on the track, and yes, work with your teammates, but really just focus on doing what you can do, and not just being screwed over by a drafting situation.
Well, I mean, there's still some perils around here. We've got that big open dog leg. Are you a type that likes to take it down onto the flat, or do you keep it on the banking, or do you just kind of play it by ear?
No, you got to rip the dog leg every time. I find that to be the fastest way around the racetrack. It can be uncomfortable, especially in traffic. Very rarely will I deviate. I am most definitely a dog leg person.
Well, best of luck out there, and we'll keep an eye out for you since you say you tend to like these style of tracks. Hopefully, we'll get to talk to you again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, guys.
That was Brandon Evans driving in the number 39 truck here today. We'll see where he winds up once we get to the qualifying. And of course, it's not just Brandon that we want to talk about here today. We have our vet spotlight, and this week's veteran spotlight is Indy Autosports Regis Clark. Regis has been in the U.S. Army since 2009. To begin his 14 years of service, he enlisted as an infantryman before being medically reclassed to Air Defense Battle Management Systems operator. In September 2022, Regis graduated from the Warrant Officer Candidate School and now serves as the Air and Missile Defense System Integrator for the 10th Combat Aviation Brigade, 10th Mountain Division. So big thanks to Regis for all of his service as we take a look at his quote here and what he has contributed, and a little look at his truck here for round two. We were looking at a new driver each and every round and celebrating and highlighting their service to our community and our country. And I have to say, Joey, I didn't realize how hard it is to say infantrymen until I had to try and practice for this today.
Yeah, it doesn't quite roll off the tongue. And I was looking for that number 8 truck, and currently right smack in the middle of the field, P16 in practice out of the 29 trucks that are currently circulating Phoenix Raceway.
Well, we've had one round. That means we've got points on the table, but they're pretty much going to look like how they finished last time if we take a look at the championship. Kostek leading the way over Stubblefield, and Gardner tied for second. Pendleton down there in fourth position. As you'd expect with how they do scoring on NASCAR, it stays very tight here at the beginning. This will probably shuffle up even after just this round, but keep your eye on this space because it'll likely change and modify as the season goes on, and we get a real feel for who are going to be the major players. Let's talk about the truck as well, though, Joey. Definitely one of the more interesting racing vehicles in terms of all racing. Not often that you talk about trucks.
The entry level of the NASCAR ladder series, if you will. And here's the graphic right here on your screen. 650 horsepower, so plenty of power underneath that right foot to really spin up those rear tires. You still have to manage that right foot of yours. 4-speed gearbox with that H pattern. It is a dog box, so you can go slam in those gears. 3,400 pounds. That is about the weight of your average street car out there. Trust me, these are not light vehicles that these drivers are slinging around. If you want to go and replicate the racing that you see right here tonight, you can go on to iRacing, race them right there in that NASCAR Class C series, the truck series out there, and go ahead and see how you stack up against some of the best virtual racers out there.
Absolutely. That's one of the things I love about them using iRacing for this series is definitely one of the more popular here than NASCAR trucks, but it allows pretty much anybody to hop on and see how they fare against the best of the best, or just your regular Joe Schmo. Now, for this track, we touched on it a little bit. It is definitely one of the more unique ones as we take a look at Google Earth down into the deserts of Arizona to Phoenix, right next to Rattlesnake Hill. And this is a tri-oval format. Now, it has changed a lot recently. The start-finish line used to be on what is now the backstretch, that flat portion at the top of your screen. Now you can see in the lower left, they have moved it to before the tri-oval, but have kept the pits in the same position. This is only a mile long. It is very flat out here at 8 to 11 degrees of banking, which means that it is going to be more down to the mechanical grip on these trucks and trying to set up your line throughout. I'm sure tires will likely be a talking point because of that, because, I mean, it is out in the desert. It's hot. We'll talk about that in a bit because it's very hot on the track. But a fantastic little circuit that has definitely gone through some modifications but retains its individuality in terms of a lot of NASCAR ovals, even to today. We also have the race details here. Joey, why don't we go over our analysis?
Yeah, tonight is going to be 115 laps long, also 115 miles, just a mile around this place. Pit road speed, 45 miles an hour. You do have to be careful getting onto it. It is at the end of the turn, so you really have to tighten it and get on the brakes. It's easy to lose that rear end. 2 green-white checkered attempts are available if we need them at the end of tonight's race. At Daytona, we certainly did. No fast repairs available, so if you get into any problems out there on the racetrack, you're going to have to live with that damage or come down pit road, have the crew hop over the wall, get that stuff fixed up. A custom fixed setup, 100% fuel capacity, and there's going to be 4 sets of tires available. That usually means that you start on a sticker set, and then you got 3 sets there in the pits that you can go to.
Now, typically, when it's during the non-winter months here, from what I understand, most series will race here at night because, well, it's the desert and it's going to get hot out there. But today they're racing during the day, Joey, and it is 141 Fahrenheit on the track surface. Holy cow.
That's pretty warm. 141, definitely. You know, I'm trying to think back on my racing career. I think that's about as hot as I've ever seen it. Maybe 145 at New Jersey or so. I've been in Indianapolis when it's about 135, 140. But yeah, it just means a lot of tire wear. And I think the biggest thing is that there's no confidence in the truck. You go barreling into some of these corners and you need the grip, and it's just not there whenever you want it.
I wonder what that's going to do for the side-by-side racing as well, if that's going to make it more difficult, especially through that tri-oval where you can see them 4 and 5 wide, depending, especially on restarts, since it is so wide across there and everybody's kind of trying to find their own space. But it looks like they are just getting started with qualifying. Is that going to be important here, you think, Joey, is getting a good position during this Q session?
Well, with what I just said, yes, definitely. If it's going to be low grip traditionally out there on the racetrack, you want to be as far forward as possible. You don't want to use up that tire going through the field. You want to be able to conserve the tire as best you can out there. So yes, qualifying right now going to be important, obviously, because of the track temperature, but also, Joe, this is only a 1-mile track. You got to be up towards the front. Otherwise, you can get lost back there.
Watching Drabick to see what he can do as he takes a little bit of the apron, drifts it back up for turn 1, and down into this long left-hander, quite shallow into here, and then it's a run down the backstretch. This is where the front stretch used to be. They had the flag stand, and he plunges it into 3 and 4 now. Much sharper through this one and slightly higher banking and to the line. His first lap sets a 28.3.
All of these drivers have 2 laps available here in qualifying, only 5 minutes long. Gonna jump over to the number 27 car here of Jacob Ellingson, seeing all these different shots of everybody inside of there. Simric powering off of turn number 4 here. Come to what is now turn number 3 and 4 to finish the lap.
Exactly. It's going to catch me out probably at some points, even after a couple years of having it in this format. It feels like it never fails to catch me off guard as Ellingson jumps himself onto looks like about 12th position with that second lap of a 28.520. Trevor McManus, in the meantime, is on his first flying lap right now. They've got plenty of time, even with only 5 minutes, to try and circulate since it is less than 30 seconds per lap. And let's see what the first one holds for that number 9, 28.728. That'll bump him up to 19th. Right now, provisional pole is for Jamie Barkus, who finds himself at a 28.082.
Right on board here with that number 9, Trevor McManus. Going down the back straightaway here, plow it off into the final couple corners here. And I'm looking through, we've had 22 of the 29 drivers set a lap time and a big wiggle off of turn number 4 trying to complete that lap. It will put him up inside of the top 10, though. The 9 car goes 9th fastest.
All right, so McManus puts himself somewhere around the middle of the pack. Goshen, Perkins, Gardner, Marshall, Knights are the ones that we're waiting on to wrap this up, and they've got a little less than 2 minutes to go, so there is definitely still time, even if they're in pit lane from here. But you can see Gardner slipping and slide around off of turn 2 as the truck definitely looks a little bit out of sorts.
Absolutely, just searching for that grip. 140 degrees on that track temperature is going to be everybody searching wherever they can. And actually check out that number 42, Jeremy Gardner, up into the 3rd place position.
All right, so he's found something out there. Let's see if the second lap is even quicker or if the tires are going off with all this heat pounding down onto the pavement as he climbs down to that yellow line at the apex of turns 3 and 4, crosses, and it's looking like a 28.252. That's not going to be an improvement. Knights just took his second lap, and he'll stay in 25th. I think that is everybody who's able to set a time now.
Yeah, I saw a couple of those drivers out there. There's a couple trucks that opted to not qualify here, but I am noticing over 4 minutes done in qualifying, so I do believe that is going to set our grid.
It will indeed. But before we get to the grid, why don't we talk about one of our sponsors since we've got a little bit of time? Of course, presenting this series is Jam Printing and Promotions. Since forming in 2013, Jam has contributed printing and promotional sponsorships to more than 60 local nonprofits, with a primary focus on organizations that assist veterans, women, and children. They have been with Goat Locker Racing since the very beginning. Local and veteran certified, when they do well, they do good in the community. So big thank you to Jam Printing and Promotions for helping put this show on as the clock ticks down to 0 and it's time to go through our starting grid. It'll be Jamie Barkus who manages a pole position today. Cody McIlwain will be in second as Jamie Gardner will be P3. And Mark McCrary will be 4th. After that, Ryan Pendleton starts 5th. Then it's Jonathan Cofield in the 6th spot. Next row sees Jamie Mullins starting 7th and Daniel Cunningham in P8. Last week's winner, Michael Kostek, starts from 9th, and he'll have Trevor McManus next to him in 10th.
Stephen McDonald in the number 68 truck, it will start in 11th. Brandon Evans, who we talked to pre-race, will start in 12th. Patrick Drabick in 13th. James Kaufman here in the 14th spot. Chuck Feltz will start in 15th. George Jewell in 16th. The number 1 truck of Tanner Bethea will be in 17th. Tommy Cook in the number 218th. Jacob Ellingson starting 19th. And Regis Clark, our vet spotlight earlier, in 20th.
21st is going to go to Mike Browning. Kyle Plumstead will be next to him there in P22. Then you got Brandon Wallace in 23rd. After that, it is Timothy Stubblefield starting 24th. Matt Knights starts 25th today. After the quarter century mark, we go to Doug Ellingson to the outside there in 26th. Last driver to set a time. James Goshen will be 27th, Alan Marshall 28th, and Jamie Perkins will be 29th. And last on the field here for this race is they're just about gridded up and ready to go for this second round of the championship. Pace car will lead them around for a single lap. And what's interesting is because they changed the start line, the pace car is going to have to leave much earlier.
Yeah, but you know what? The green flag still gets thrown by Barney at that flag stand, so that's when the race is going to start. Yes, you're right. The pace car is going to dip off extremely soon. However, I am noticing all of the trucks, they do have some mile per hour, so we are lined up 2 by 2 with that number 15 truck in command of the field waiting for that green flag.
Indeed. What can Jamie do here today? He was up towards the front at the super speedway. Looks like he's still got speed here at the 1 miler, but that is on qualifying pace. Now, it is a fixed setup, so everybody is going to be in the same boat, and there's not going to be any change on that realm, but being able to manage those tires over the course of it could play into whether or not we see him at the front at the end of 115 laps. The green flag is out, and we go racing once again. Pretty decent start there for Jamie as they all fan out through the tri-oval.
Look at that, 2 and 3 wide, a little bit further in the back of the pack. I believe the number 53 truck having some problems going into what is number 2. And then we got the entire field, what is streaming out onto the back straightaway.
Mostly single file, but Barkas is under threat there by McIlwain, who pokes his nose down to the inside of turn 3, but can't quite manage to get through. We got a caution, though. Looks like Goshen, I think, in the 85 gets turned around through 3 and 4. Not sure what started it, though.
Yeah, I believe it might have been the number 64 truck that gave him a little bit of help going into what is turn number 3 on the opening lap. Now watch this white and blue number 64. He's going to get into the right rear of James Goshen here and send him around.
Ooh, yeah, pretty cut and dried on that one. Just plows right into the rear of the car, and not much he can do from there. And somebody even gets into the side of them as he gets turned around, trying to see who that was that kind of plowed into him there on that secondary hit.
There was 2 trucks, unfortunately. The number 4 of Mike Browning, as well as the 88 of Jamie Perkins, both got a piece of it afterwards.
That is a real shame. So this is from Perkins' perspective here. You can see him spinning, trying to figure out which way to go, and the truck just comes back across at the last moment, unfortunately. So yeah, wow, that's essentially 3 bits of contact in a single corner for poor James.
And remember, no fast repairs available to this series, so I know that's been a big change for a lot of these drivers. These early yellows can put you way behind the 8 ball, not where you want to be, as we see that number 4 truck who was involved in that incident come down, get that damage fixed up. But hey, it does provide that opportunity to fix that truck.
Yep, and unlike last week, though, with the laps going by so much quicker, you're not going to be able to sit and try and pound away at the car for very long. The pace car will cycle back around, and you can go a lap down. One thing that has helped these trucks in this heat is Premier Racing Setups. It's the longest-running setup shot on iRacing, established in 2016. They offer many different options to help take your sim racing career to the highest levels. With over 50,000 customers worldwide, they've got the tools you need to compete with the best. And a special thank you to them for donating setups for the truck series. It looks like we are double file and ready to go. Once again, that pace car is going to peel off. Let's hope we get a few more laps under green this time for this one, as Barkas will have control once more. And we saw that green flag come out pretty early out of turn 4. Will it do likewise once again? As we wait patiently, coming up towards that banking here, heading around the final corner and towards the start-finish line. There we see them exiting out as Barney holds the green flag aloft. And yes, it is a pretty early start, it looks like, each and every time. And it's a very good jump for Barkas, who leaps ahead of his 2 rivals as Gardner down to the inside is going to try to take second away from McIlwain.
Yeah, he's all the way down there painting that yellow line. We're going to see if that top lane is going to pay off with the drive off of the corner. The number 6 of McIlwain is going to hold that second place position, drives it way deep into turn number 3, though. Gets it back on the racing line. Single file for the top 5, and really now throughout the top 10.
That's probably a good thing here to get things kind of underway, but look at it. Oh, it always scares me watching these trucks try and kind of siphoned down coming out of that tri-oval into the entry to turn one, as everybody is on such a different trajectory into their side-by-side battle that you see is between McCrary and Mullins. That is for 5th place.
You see the number 83 truck down on the inside. That's Mark McCrary. And now we got the number 53 who's going to go way down underneath on that dog leg. 3 wide going into turn number 1. But look at that 53 truck. That's Jonathan Cofield making the moves.
He's able to get up alongside Mullins, but not able to complete the pass quite yet. Pinched down to the bottom. He's going to have to slot back into line, as in front of them saw a little bit of an attempt at a pass by Gardner, as we got another yellow once again. I think Jamie Perkins may be involved in this one.
Yes, unfortunately, that's going to be coming off a turn number 2. Just had a self-spin. Remember, this number 88 truck was involved in that first yellow, so you see the damage on the front right of this vehicle. You know it's not driving right. Probably a handful already. You see it come around, impact the front wall, and then he hits that Alta F4 to pit road.
Yeah, and yeah, immediate tow. Good call on that one.
I was going to say, he tried to get off the racetrack as soon as possible to prevent this yellow flag from coming out. Tip of the cap, but just not quite fast enough on that draw.
Yep. So we go back under pacing for the time being. I will say my experience, what limited I do have here on the oval side, that exit off of 2 is an absolute nightmare in pretty much every vehicle I've taken to this track. So I kind of don't blame him for losing control, especially if he is experiencing some handling issues.
Well, and since things have slowed down just a little bit, you had mentioned character of Phoenix Raceway when we started this show, and that's exactly what we're seeing. Off of turn number 2, the banking is so incredibly different than off of turn number 4. So even how you approach the turns, yes, they're different, but how you come out of each of these corners, you also have to approach it differently, and if you don't, you can see what happened.
Absolutely. It is interesting, too, how this track is now probably more closely associated with NASCAR and stock car racing, because it started out life mainly for open wheelers, both IndyCar and modifieds visited here a lot. Obviously, IndyCar has tried to return in recent times, but has since left again. But it's definitely made closed-top vehicles very much kind of the staple.
I think it has to do with the lesser of the banking and not quite the high as top speeds, right? You don't have that aerodynamic effect that you have at some of the mile-and-a-half or really fast racetracks. So, yeah, I can definitely see the history in that. And then you bring out these big NASCAR trucks. Doesn't matter if it's the trucks, the Xfinity, or the Cup cars. They just produce some amazing racing. And the other thing that I like about Phoenix, Joe, is that kind of tends a little bit more to the road race style of driving and attacking the racetrack because of those flatter camber levels. You can kind of drive the truck in more. However, it teaches you to really be patient and have to roll the center.
We heard Brandon talking about how he likes the driver's tracks. And yeah, I'd say that's a good description of this place, as you said, that it forces you to get up on top of the wheel. And Chuck Pegleg Feltz has no problems getting on top of the wheel. In fact, I think that wheel will bend to his whims.
I think that he could rip that thing off and then throw it through the screen at us if I say something bad about the number 75. So he's looking fantastic out there on the racetrack. I'm searching through the field right now to see exactly where Chuck Feltz is running a little bit further back. He's got some work to do.
Yeah, down in 18th right now, so he'll have some passes to make if he wants to get himself a good finish today, but it's a long race ahead of us. Let's hope that we can get some green flag under our belts here, and he can try to have some opportunity to make those overtakes. Now this time, up at the front, you can see that is Gardner who's going to be starting next to Barkas instead of McElwain next to him, so slot him back into 3rd place in the number 6 truck. Let's see if that helps us start, though. Sometimes that P3 can be a little bit more advantageous on some tracks on restarts.
Well, especially here at Phoenix, we've got that dog leg with that we've seen the competitors really drive every single time on these restarts. That lower lane offers the shortest distance around the track.
All right, can he shorten it enough to try and pop back ahead of the number 42 this time? We wait for the green, and there it is. Quick one for Barkas, who is going to be able to leap out to the front once more. And indeed, look at the 6, almost fully ahead of the 42 already. And we're not even to the first corner, but sending it deep. The 42 is going to try his best to hold him back.
Yeah, and he's actually holding it side by side for what is the second place. He's going to have the drive off of corner number 4. So fantastic job from Jeremy Gardner to move back into that second place, hold down that position from the outside lane.
A little bit behind them, you can see that is Cofield and Pendleton fighting for 4th as well, still side by side, but they'll siphon down to that single file racing once more as they hit turns 1 and 2 once again. Back of the field still very much all mixed up, you can see as they enter the frame there, but the front of the field each and every time seems quite content to just kind of settle down.
Joe, there's 2 different sides to this race right now. About the top 10, that's nice and orderly, single file, but then the back half of this field, oh my goodness, 2, 3 wide in a lot of these corners. I have to attribute that 140-degree track temperature. Everybody's just kind of driving wherever they can find the grip.
Absolutely. We're checking in on a couple of them here coming down the front stretch. This is around 10th and 11th place. Almost contact there as I think McManus has to back out of it and drifts up the hill.
Yeah, you see him really get stacked up into what is that turn 3 and 4 complex, then through the dog leg here, approach turn number 1. Everybody's still kind of getting into the rhythm out here. I know that we're working lap number 15, but we've had those 2 yellow flags. Everybody's still trying to get everything up to temperature, including themselves.
That's a good point. Yeah, we haven't really been able to get into the rhythm of things quite yet. Still, McManus is trying to find an open space on the bottom of the track. He'll be able to get ahead of Cunningham, who we ride on board with now, and actually is already kind of looking underneath Drabic in front of him. That's for 9th.
Really curious to see if some of these drivers are going to push it harder at the beginning of this stint, see if some of the drivers played a little bit easier with the track temperatures, see if there's any of the gaps opening up at all. But with this fixed setup, everybody's got the same equipment underneath them. You just have to maximize it over that entire stint length.
Cunningham going way high up the hill there through 3 and 4. That's going to open things up for Evans. Can the 39 finish the pass, though, is the question. The yellow number 08 is once again going to hold high, but it seems like that's not a bad place to be sometimes there through 1 and 2.
No, I don't think so. I think that, at Phoenix, you can really carry the momentum and the power off the corner, but Brandon Evans said that he always takes the dog leg. Let's watch this number 39. He's got that motion rig. Let's see how far he hops across the living room floor as he jumps up and down off of the banking and gets back onto the racing line, move him up into 11th.
And they'll accordion back together as they hit the brakes there into 1 and 2. But Cunningham will remain behind Brandon Evans as Ellingson behind him, up 6 positions since the start. Not too shabby there by the 27 to make up quite a few in what little racing we have had. There we can see him on screen now, poking his nose on Cunningham.
Yeah, that is the 27 truck coming up here to turn number 1, dive it off down in there. I'm seeing a lot of these drivers, Joe, they're really going for the yellow line. They're not really kind of stretching the outside line yet around Phoenix unless they're having to go side by side. In that case, like we saw earlier, the power off the corner is actually quite nice.
Well, I kind of don't blame them, because if we keep staying green, I mean, we don't know how long these tires are going to last, but I can't imagine that they're going to be nice very long if we keep under pace. Is a battle for 10th place now. My goodness, side by side between Drabic and McManus. McManus to the inside and can't carry that speed off the corner like we've seen pretty much every single time off of turn 2. Drabic trying to do the same thing through 3 and 4, and he will pull into P9.
That 9 car really got choked up on the bottom lane. Drabic was able to capitalize on it. He is in that white and orange car, so move him up into 9th place position. He's got Mark McCrary and Michael Kostek right in front of him, and if Michael Kostek rings the bell, remember, that was last week's winner. He's riding inside the top 10.
Doing pretty good so far here at a much shorter track, and he's still got a couple places to make up if he wants to try and make it back-to-back wins to start this season. but we'll see if he's a little bit kinder on those tires as this one plays out. And he brings it way out to the wall for the entry to one.
Well, and I was wondering when we're going to see some different lines here, especially in 1 and 2 on Phoenix. It's because it's so flat through there. Now, in real-world racing, you see a lot of the drivers go up towards the top lane. In iRacing, it works a little bit different, but I'm curious if somebody is going to go try that top lane because we've seen the drive off of the corner be really, really good.
That's a good point. I mean, if as long as the marbles aren't too bad, if it starts to grip up a little bit, that could be the place to be, especially if it gets too hot on that bottom line with all the trucks pounding away down close to that yellow line. Kostek still sitting in P7 and actually holding off a bunch of drivers. That's McCrary, Drabick, and McManus in behind him, and he's got to try and catch up to Mullins, who is the next one up the road.
You gotta think that maybe kind of becoming the cork in the bottle here as we get a little bit of side-by-side action going on right behind him. That is, once again, Patrick Drabick trying to go the long way around. Scott, I believe that's the number 9 truck again, Trevor McManus. So that's the same battle that we were essentially watching. The number 9 truck going down on the inside one more time, but oh, so close, and he's going to hang on to a big-time slide there from McManus.
He was already loose in 1 and 2 and just was trying desperately to woe the truck up there in 3 and 4. Thankfully, they did not wreck. Evans will pick up the spot because of that and moves into P10 as we now watch from on board with McManus up ahead of him. He's going to have to make up for that little issue.
Got a little bit of track position to make up for sure, but cool the tires down, kind of shake it off. That's what racing drivers have to do, especially. Look at this, already clicked off lap number 26 of 115. So now that we're going green, things are going by quite quickly.
Absolutely is. 115 laps might sound like a lot, but less than 30 seconds per lap. The longer it stays green, this could absolutely fly by. And coming down once again into 3 and 4. Cofields has been trying to catch up with McElwain. This is for the podium position.
He's seeing kind of Jeremy Gardner run away a little bit, so I'm sure that the number 53 truck wants to get around this number 6 of Cody McElwain. However, they're both running a very, very good pace, hanging on to the leaders right now, just hanging out inside of the top 5.
This is definitely starting to look like it is settling in from what we can see. There's still some battles, but it is a lot of drivers probably thinking long term at this stage. You can see the 53 kind of once again going lower and then trying that high line you were talking about. Let's see if it can cut back on the exit.
And I think the big thing is you got to be patient, but look at the drive off of the corner. He's going to go to the inside of the number 6, going down into turn number 3. Is he going to slide up? It's still side by side. Looks like the corner exit back to Cody McElwain. Now it's going to be the shortest distance around through the dogleg. We're going to see if Jonathan Cofield can hang on and secure this pass.
I think that was definitely helped by Cody having a big slide there coming off of turn 2 last time around. Let's see if it's any safer this time for him as he exits off the corner. Yeah, that looks a lot more smooth, but the damage has been done, and indeed he loses third.
Very curious, though. Does the 53 have more pace than that green number 6 that he just got around? Can he go and hunt down that number 42 truck? Because I'm looking, he's about 9/10 up the road here. Has a little bit of work cut out for him.
Absolutely does. Barkas and Gardner have been kind of running away while they can, trying to make themselves some comfort here up front. But again, I don't know how much they really want to try and use that up in these early stages, especially if we get a caution that is not the right time to take a pit stop. That was Doug Ellingson that just pulled out of the way of the leader and let them lap them already, which could become more and more of a problem if we do keep staying green.
Yeah, and you know, if I was to guesstimate, I don't have the fuel numbers here in front of me, but we're probably about halfway through, maybe just shy of a full tank fuel run for these guys. So I'm really impressed with the pace that Jamie Barkas has. Same thing with Jeremy Gardner. They are running away from the rest of the pack, but is this early speed using up the tire? Is there somebody that's maybe hanging out inside of the top 5 that is more conserving with their strategy that will rise to the front later?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that I'm so curious about to watch if we manage to stay green. They certainly had plenty of green flag racing back at Daytona. This one started out a little rough at times, but now they are in the swing of it for sure. In fact, I think we're getting close to the quarter mark of this race.
Well, I remember we were talking with Patrick before the Daytona race, and he said that most of these races in the Goat Locker Racing Series, they go green the entire time, and they proved it at Daytona. It was extremely impressive, and you're right, maybe a couple early yellows, but I'm not surprised with how slippery the track is. It's also a 1 mile compared to the super speedway of last week. Everybody's still adapting, but now that they've got the rhythm of things, it's going quite nicely.
On board with Brandon Evans. He's sandwiched between a whole bunch of other trucks. Kostek, McCrary, Evans is in behind him. McManus as well. They're mostly single file, at least until they get to that tri-oval, and then they once again spread out to try and pick their line. And look at that, though. Way down to the inside there for that number 39, all the way through the corner, whereas the others seem to have moved about a lane up.
Kind of trying the Kevin Harvick method, and I've commented on a lot of Brandon Evans' race here on iRacing. He is a very cool driver. He is one that will always sit there and conserve the tires, but he has got his work cut out for him. You're always going to make contact with Drabic. That's going to be heavy contact to the inside. Drabic is going to be out of this one.
Oh, my goodness. And look at that. Gloves are off immediately. Wheel off. He is frustrated about that one. Just not even sitting around and waiting to try and analyze. He's done. He's gone. And that comes down to what I talked about earlier. There is just miscommunications that can happen as you come off of the banking into the flat or back up onto it in this case.
Brandon Evans said pre-race he is a dog leg guy, and Joe, you called it perfectly. You know, if we watch from way above on this replay, we're going to see Drabic not go all the way out to the wall. Why? Because he's going to try to get clean air on the front of his truck to set up a pass going into what is turn number 3. Well, the 39 truck is also there. He's not aware that he's going to come down. It just kind of shuffles downwards.
Yeah. So 2 different lines going into one spot, and physics dictates that they can't share it. So one gets sent all the way up, and there was someone that barely escaped there as well. Trying to see who that was.
This is just so tough with Drabic getting out with this one. You know, it wasn't how he wanted to end Daytona last week, involved with the wreck, and we're going to see the 39 truck either come up the racetrack or the 07 go down the racetrack, however you want to view it. They both argued over the same piece of racetrack, and unfortunately, the 07 paid the price.
It was Jacob Ellingson that kind of snuck through there. I think he had a pretty good margin to the truck, the wrecking truck, but boy, did he have to get close to the outside wall to try and keep from getting hit by it. So thankfully he didn't scrape too much paint off, but watch from his view here.
Through the dog leg. Man, just barely got to the top side of the racetrack. He saw all of that stuff happening down low. He decided to keep his foot in it because if he didn't, he was going to get collected in it all himself. And while we were covering those replays, Joe, I was noticing it looks like we had our first round of pit stops.
Indeed, and looking at the times, it appears that everybody has taken tires on this first one. Now, 3 total tire changes that they can do throughout the race, if they take all 4, that is. So that means that pretty much everybody is now down to 2 more tire changes, and we've got, gosh, about 70 laps to go, I think it is.
And honestly, you do by the math, that plays out. I mean, if we pitted, call it lap 40 here to give it the rough math, right? We double that to 80, and that would just be 1 more stop, essentially. And that would leave an extra set for anybody that has some troubles out there on the racetrack. Or, remember, this is a 1 mile racetrack, a green-white checkered, with some freshies at the end with how hot this track can be. It'd be interesting to see if somebody opts for that late in the race.
Right. So sounds like Gardner has lost a lot of spots. Trying to check on his pit stop, and it doesn't look like he had some sort of speeding penalty in there, and it doesn't look like a long one. Not sure why he dropped a bunch of positions.
Yeah, I'm noticing that myself here, and everything seemed to be okay as they entered pit road as we get everybody stacked up, believe 2x2 here for this restart.
I wonder if it was a speeding penalty coming out of pit lane, maybe. Because I think that can happen where if you speed out of pit lane, it'll send you to the end of line on that one. So that might explain that. In the meantime, Evans got the end of line penalty for being the cause of that accident last time. They do that in this series if you're deemed to be at fault. So that's why he is towards the back. But Barkas is still at the front there in the number 15. He's got control of the field, and the green flag is out once again. That number 6 down to the bottom side from third is going to try to take P2 away, maybe even P1 here.
Everybody's got the fresh tires and the confidence to drive it off into what is turn number 1 and 2 here at Phoenix, powered off of the racetrack. Jamie Barkas says, see you later. I want the lead, and I'm going to leave everybody in the dust just like how I was.
As they accelerate away once again, battle for fourth place rages on behind our top three wide even potentially here with Pendleton up on the high side. That could be the place to be unless Mullins is strong here on the restart. He pulls fully ahead of him on turns 1 and 2. He could drift up if he wants, is down below. That was a moment for Trevor McManus, who has to gather it up.
We already saw one car get way loose out of turn number 2 by himself. Trevor McManus just had a moment himself as the field streams out of turn number 4. Still 2, sometimes even 3 wide through the dog leg here. These fresh tires are still paying dividends. I'm looking at the lap times, the fastest laps they've turned all race.
Whoa, what a problem down low. That was Ellingson, who manages to catch
That
it.
was
And Jamie
Barkas.
Barkas, too. Both of them had a problem. Our leader is now back down in 9th place.
Yeah, and this was all by himself coming off of turn number 2. Just a nightmare day now for Jamie Barkas that was going oh so well. This was all by himself. He just got loose with the right foot in heavy contact with that inside wall.
Highly unusual. Definitely looks like the rears are having some trouble here, even early in this stint. We got a caution, and I'm trying to make out what was the cause of this, though.
I see Jeremy Gardner very slow on the racetrack, and he did have a spin here. I also notice, I believe it might have been with a number 1 truck involved with that one, Tanner Bethea.
Yeah, I think you're right. Let's see. Oh, and yeah, there's the 42 down low. We'll get a better perspective on it here. Oh, did the one just get loose or something there? That was strange.
You know, we've been talking about the dog leg and coming off of the dog leg. The number 1 either got loose or he just wanted the bottom side of the racetrack here. He never comes back up the racetrack. And the number 42, oh, you're right, Joe. He gets loose on the dog leg.
Yeah, you can see it there. The tail starts to wag, and the 42 was there. Both of them come together, and now they have to visit pit lane for a few repairs before they're able to get back out. Bethea is actually 2 laps down, so I didn't seem like he had that bad of a hit, but I guess it was enough that he's having to sit patiently for them to pound away at something in the engine bay.
Sometimes it can just be that toe link. You know, if you don't have the steering wheel straight, it can just be a pain in the butt to really roll the center through these long, long corners at Phoenix. But hey, it gives everybody kind of a chance to catch their breath. You know, we did have a little bit of a green flag run there. Everybody got those fresh tires. The aggression level was high and kind of showed on the racetrack.
All right, so looks like a wave around there for James Goshen, who is 8 laps down, unfortunately. He's got a lot to make up. Even with Lucky Dogs, that's going to be difficult to get back with the main group. You'll need a lot of cautions to try and return. But This is now, I believe, number 4 for our cautions. They're starting to rack up. This is probably a good time to go through another one of our sponsors, which includes Veterans for Life Foundation. The goal of the Veterans for Life Foundation is to both revitalize communities and support military veterans and their families' successful transition back into civilian life. Through support services, counseling, and education, they provide permanent, affordable housing to veterans and their family. Big, big thank you to Veterans for Life Foundation for being a part of this one. So hopefully one of these veterans can use this as an opportunity to maybe get themselves a handy win. We have a different leader now because of that issue we saw for Barkis. Cofield is now up front.
It'll be interesting to see kind of how Jonathan Cofield goes about handling the front of this race. Jamie Barkis has been in control the entire time, so different group of drivers. Cody McElwain has been hounding him the entire time, or I should say been hounding the lead the entire time, and it's actually the number 53 that gets the clean air. I'm sure that green number 6 wants to argue about it some more.
No doubt. McElwain's kind of been at it with Cofield all race long. Now they're going to be sharing the front row on the restart, which I think is going to be happening this time by, as everybody now stacks up once again. We're already down to 23 out of the 29 starters on the lead lap. So we're starting to lose a few. Looks like Perkins, Clark, and Bethea are all DNFs. Drabic has been sitting in pit lane for almost 10 minutes, so he might be out of this race, but he could still return before this is over if he wants to just try and collect points from those who have also had problems. We'll have to wait and see. But we'll restart very close to the 50 lap mark here, lap 48. And Jonathan Cofield will now be the one in control. First time we've had a different leader on one of these restarts, actually. So how will this change things, if at all, as they come through 3 and 4 once again? Cofield looking for that restart zone. He's entered it now. And there it is. Green flag is out. Jonathan with a good jump as McElwain will fall back into second. Pendleton will get third, and then it's a fight for fourth.
Yeah, it's actually, I believe it might have been the number 66 of Mullins getting swallowed up on the initial restart. He has swapped up to the high line, trying to get that momentum off of turn number 2, which he does. But look at how busy it is further in the back of the pack.
When it's close as Mullins chops across McCrary, they'll get away with it, but it was very tight to contact between them. That was some trust amongst competitors. Meanwhile, they'll complete the first lap back under green flag racing.
And the drivers, they're all got the different lines approaching some of these corners. Some of them really trying to rim ride around the outside, especially here in turns 1 and 2. Look at this number 9 car. I believe he's got the power coming off of here. He's going to have the drive down to the inside. It's multiple cars going down here in 3 and 4.
That's McManus in that number 9, and he's going to drive down to the bottom, clunk it back up onto the banking. Coming into turn 1 is up to the outside. That's Pendleton. That is for position, fighting for fourth. But Pendleton has his eyes on Ellingson, who is up 16 spots right now onto the podium.
You're right. I'm going through timing and scoring right now. He is leaps and bounds ahead of everybody else who's been a big mover. Started way back there in 19th, so a great drive for that number 27 truck of Jacob Ellingson, all up on that wheel.
I was just going to say, it always strikes me the different arm lengths that drivers will take. Some like it closer. I prefer it kind of farther away from my body, but this is very close to the chest.
So this is traditional short track, traditional circle track stuff. You know, there's a lot of cars that are just your shove forward. You go try to stuff somebody in one of these Legends cars. It's funny to watch the clowns try to get into those, get in and out of some of those cars.
Well, down to the inside. Oh, that's a big look by the 9 once again. McManus manages to find some space there underneath Pendleton, who's going to give him room, but pinched to the bottom. The 9 once again can't find the grip. He's slow. He gets a hello from Mullins from behind.
Yes, he does. Jamie Mullins just gave him a big old shot there going into turn number 3. He was saying, get back up to speed right here, or else I'm going to go around you. We ride on board with the number 66. dive it off into turn number 1. Everybody kind of choosing the middle of the racetrack now.
On the roof of the Right Now Roofing car, and that looked a little bit slippery coming off of turn 2 for him this time, as he has trouble behind the number 9. Goes a little bit high to get some air on that nose up through 3 and 4, but that's not going to get him the run.
Oh, and it seems to me that the number 9 car has some good speed today. We've seen him go down the inside of several trucks earlier in the race. However, struggling on that corner exit, and that's where you really secure all of those passes.
All right, we're settling in once again. Everybody getting a little bit of space now. And we're going back to single file racing once more. Still seeing different lines between the drivers, though, especially coming up through 3 and 4 there, as they each try and pick the way that they want to steer through that highly banked corner. Well, more heavily than this banked corner at least. And you can see the difference between their lines through 1 and 2 as well, as McManus hugs the bottom and Mullins continues to ride a little bit high. Now he's going to try and go low, but he's chopped off at the apex as McManus says no.
I tell you what, McManus really drove it in hard there into turn number 3. So he's suffering a little bit. I believe it's the corner exit, primarily coming off of turn number 2, which is this corner right here. So we're going to see if this number 9 car can get the drive off, or if this white and green 66 continues to close up on those corner exits. Seems like McManus had it a little bit more under control that time.
Certainly, and once again, he dives it in deep down into 3 and 4, but off the corner just seems to struggle getting an exit like the 66 does. The 9 still holds that track position, and that seems to be key at this stage of the stint.
And I think if we look at McManus and the 9 car and how he's driving so hard into the corner, right? And then it suffers coming out. Here comes the 66. Once again, he's going to look down to the inside. We're going to see how far that number 9 drives it into the corner, way deep. He's able to hold it a little bit better here in 3 and 4, I think because of the extra camber on the racetrack. But I have a feeling it's only going to be a matter of time before those rear tires start to get a little bit too hot.
This time Trevor had to give way, but he could shut down to the bottom if he wants to. This time Mullins is no longer side by side. Great defense there by Trevor. Certainly unorthodox. I'm used to trucks trying to maybe back up the corner a little bit to get the better run off of it to defend on the car behind, but certainly going the reverse route is working for Trevor McManus at this stage, just inside the top 5, and now he's actually starting to gain as well on Pendleton in front of him.
Yeah, I'm going to get a little nerdy here. He's going to have a poor run once again coming off of turn number 2. We're going to see the 66 close it up a little bit here, but when the 66 gets down to the inside, it forces the number 9 to not be as aggressive on corner entry, right? He can't dive it down as low as he wants to, and it actually benefits his run coming off of the corner. So his natural defensive line, the middle of the racetrack, only happens when the 66 is down low, and he can actually probably take a note from that.
We'll see if he does. And it did look like he moved up a tiny bit there as Pendleton continues to be chased for that 4th spot, and boy, he closes in down into 3 and 4. Once again, he likes to just chuck that truck right down in there, and he's going to suffer from it once more as they cross the start-finish line. We are down to 55 laps to go. We have passed the halfway mark.
I can't tell you how many times as a driver I have been told sometimes you got to drive slower in order to go faster out there. As we check in on the 53 of Jonathan Cofield, you don't need to tell this driver to do anything. I'm checking the notes here. 1.3 seconds, the biggest gap any leader has had all night.
Certainly has been looking cool, calm, and collected by that number 53. Our former leader, for those that are curious, Barkas is up to 16th, so he's picked him off a little bit, but he's still about halfway through the field. You can see him here. In fact, I think he got loose just now through that tri-oval, and Brownie regained some of that time.
Well, and I think the biggest problem that Jamie Barkas is going to have in this number 15 truck is I'm looking at the front end. He still has heavy damage on the front left corner of this thing from that incident. So even though he is somewhat up to speed on the lead lap out here, I think still suffering in terms of that overall pace.
Yeah, and that's going to be frustrating for him, knowing that he had a fast truck tonight and was doing quite well when he was in clear air. Granted, he doesn't have anybody in front of him right now, so he should be able to race as he was earlier, or at least relatively close to it. Next on his list is going to be Brandon Wallace in the number 99 to catch up to 15th position. He could probably honestly use a yellow at this stage, I would say, to bunch the field up once more.
I agree. That's definitely what Jamie Barkus wants, and I think that's kind of what the rest of the field wants, because it was only a few laps ago I said 1.3 seconds. It's 1.8 seconds now that
Wow.
Cofield has put out on the rest of the field. So that number 53 truck, hammer down right now.
Man, he is putting a whipping on everybody here. And as we follow a little bit farther back, this is, I believe, a fight down for what is 6th and 7th place here. Actually, might even be 5th. This is Jamie Mullins, yeah, for 5th position behind McManus right now in that number 9 machine. We'll once again be able to keep him behind. We were watching this for many laps earlier and think we got a feel for it. Let's see if there's been any changes for Trevor and how he's racing this truck.
Go across start finish one more time here, working lap number 66. Past halfway here at Phoenix, and the number 9 truck definitely more moving to the middle top side of the racetrack there in 1 and 2, and I think that's really benefiting his drive off of the corner. This time it's the number 66 that's struggling there off of turn number 2 as McManus once again. He is so aggressive going down into these corners. Now he's got a huge loose moment coming off of 4. The 66 is going to have a big run coming up here into turn number 1. We're going to see what he can do with it.
Trevor stays defensive down to the inside, but that was a shallow entry, and he's paying for it now. There goes Mullins round the outside. Does he have this pass done? Yes, he does. Jamie picks it up when Trevor fumbles, and now the 3 is going to try and get involved.
Yeah, that is Michael Kostek. Remember, that is last week's winner at Daytona. Underneath McManus there in the number 9. He's going to take the short way through the dog leg. Not going to have the drive off of the corner here. Number 9, once again, just drives it in so deep every corner entry.
So we'll have to sit patient once again there. Will, last week's winner. Michael in 7th spot currently. Somebody down in pit lane I saw off to the side there. That was Doug Ellingson, who is actually down and in his stall for some reason. Not sure what this call is about, but it's definitely too soon for green flag stops.
Agreed. You know, I'm looking 32 laps is what we've currently run on our fuel stint, so nowhere near needing the fuel. Wonder if maybe he smacked the wall somewhere, had to get some of that damage fixed.
It could be. He's taking tires, at least on the left-hand side. And hopefully he'll be back out soon, but that's going to mean that he's going to be about 7 laps down or somewhere around there by the time he returns to the track.
McManus is spinning out, coming through the dog leg right now. He's causing this yellow flag. He's going to keep it off of the wall. Careful there, McManus. Don't go back onto the racing line. There you go. Back it up onto the apron. Holy smokes, Joe. Remember that loose moment we saw coming off of turn number 4 earlier? Well, deja vu. It happened again.
He looks unhappy about it as well. This one, though, I think from what I could see, we've got the replay here. I think this is just the transition from the banking. Before it was the truck was getting loose. Watch this.
I think it all happened early in the corner. If we watched it again, you'll see there's a couple loose moments through 3 and 4. He's holding on to the truck on the edge the entire time. And you're right, I believe it was finally the apron that essentially gave it up.
Yeah, as soon as it hit the bottom there, it kind of shook the truck out of grip, and he's very lucky that nobody ran into him, but unfortunately, he pretty much lost all positions and is now second to last on the lead lap. But this came at a good time for everybody else because pit stops are underway.
And I'm not surprised to see that McManus truck have those overheated tires. Here's our leader, the 53, coming down off of the jacks on the right side, now taking the left side tires here on pit road. He gets down off and away. Looks like he will be the leader coming off of pit road. The number 6 of McElwain will line up second.
Jacob Ellingson still going to hold on to third. And then Mullins out in P5 as well. Jamie Barkus still showing 15th for me, so was not able to gain anything with those pit stops. He has, however, caught up a bunch of time thanks to the yellow flag coming out and backing the field up, so he got what he wanted in the end. Also, before we go back to green flag racing, let's talk about one of our sponsors, Cruisin' Classics. Located in Columbus, Ohio, Cruisin' Classics has a beautiful 56,000 square foot showroom filled with hundreds of unique automobiles. There is something for everybody out of their hand-picked selection of muscle cars and hot rods. Come on down to visit the facility today or check out their website at cruisinclassicsinc.com. So, the drivers out here going to try to take their hot rods to the front, though. And the number 23, sponsored by Cruisin' Classics. That's Ryan Pendleton in that machine, who came out in 4th, started today in 5th position, so he's kind of hanging out about where he began.
And talking about other good news on the racetrack, Joe, I was just checking in on the temperature, and I saw it go down 1 degree. It went down from 143 down to 142 out there on the racetrack. We're making progress in the right direction.
Bundle up. My goodness. Going to be absolute ice on the surface. But drivers look like they'll get the 1-to-go signal here pretty soon as they come around through 3 and 4 once again. With that incident, not really seeing any damage to the car. We're still at 25 drivers racing currently. Drabic has not been able to repair the truck and get back out onto the track. He was the one that had that huge impact to the inside wall, unfortunately, and the 07 lost the complete front of the truck. So I'm imagining he's probably having to completely replace the engine just to get back out here.
And I was just checking in also on Jamie Barkus. He's still back there in the 16th position. I believe he also came down pit road, probably got a little bit more of that damage fixed up, so hopefully he gets a little bit faster on the racetrack. The other one that I wanted to mention, I've said his name a couple times, Michael Kostek in that number 3 car. He said that he wasn't that great on these smaller tracks. He's certainly showing some speed here today.
Absolutely is. Well, Cofield has control. McElwain, can he do anything to try and take this away here on the restart? He'll be at a disadvantage round that outside. And green flag is out. Ellingson going to try and sneak underneath there, but he doesn't get as good of a start as the number 6, so he'll have to slot into line. Pendleton looking up high on that number 27, but they'll go single file for the top 4.
Yeah, pretty busy. You see the number 66 underneath the 3 here. That is Mullins and Kostek there for the 5th place position. I believe that black number 3 is actually going to move up inside of the top 5, and then we've got a really busy race going on. 2, 3 wide coming up out of 4.
There are some very eager drivers who want positions with it getting down closer to the end of the race. Track position has certainly become a premium out here. Daniel Cunningham sitting in the 9th spot. Is running side by side right now alongside, well, it was Brandon Evans, but Evans falls back. And Gardner now also using his speed as he comes alongside Cunningham. He's going to go clear around the outside, actually.
Well, and remember that white and red 42 truck from earlier in the race? He was one of our front runners, but that pit lane, I believe it was speeding on the exit, sent that 42 all the way to the back of the pack. Well, here he is, marched his way inside the top 10, and he's got a tremendous run here on Tommy Cook.
Absolutely does. The 200 has no choice but to give way down into turn 3, and that's now up to 9th place for Gardner just since we put the cameras on him. I think he's picked up 2 or 3 spots.
He's driving like a man possessed out there. We're going to see what lane he takes here into 1 and 2, right in the middle of the racetrack. That's George Jewell in that number 36 right in front of him, a little bit loose coming off once again. The 42 just understanding the truck and the grip under him.
Jewell also rides up high, practically gives up the spot there to Gardner. now up into 8th position. Next on his list going to be Mark McCrary. How quickly can he keep disposing of these drivers? Can he find his way back to the podium?
I think that he can for sure pick off at least a few more just with the aggression level. He's able to make the passes nice and clean out there on the racetrack. But the one thing I'm going to say, the further you get towards the front of the field, the more difficult every single one of those passes gets.
That is very true, and I'm sure he's going to experience that more and more as he gets by each and every truck here today and gets to the next one as we now hop on board. Once again, looking forward up the road and up ahead. Big move by Mullins, I think, down to the inside of the number 3 of Kostek. And they're going to go wheel to wheel through 3 and 4. He can't quite finish the job yet, though.
No, we're going to be side by side through the dog leg. Watch the 83 of Mark McCrary. He's closing in on this battle as Mullins goes down to the inside here. Still side by side coming off of what is turn number 2. We're going to watch the black number 3 really put the power down, have a big loose moment, but still hold that momentum up top.
So important down the back stretch there, getting some speed up and carrying it as actually sneaking on past. Mullins is going to overtake McCrary, and is Gardner getting his nose in? Yes, indeed he is.
Ultra short through the dog leg. That white and red number 42 of Jeremy Gardner continues to work his way through, and really now that these cars right in front of Gardner are battling, I'm sure he's licking his chops saying, hey, maybe I can get 2 for 1 here.
Yeah, especially if they keep going side by side like that, because once again, Mullins is going to give it a go on Kostek. Doesn't quite stick once again down to the inside. It didn't work last time for him. Is he going to try something else, or is he going to stick with us? He's going to keep going to that bottom side. Absolutely dives it into turn 1. Not fully clear of him, though.
No, and it's going to be a drag race down the back straightaway here into turn number 3. Got the 66 on the inside. Kostek holding tough on the outside. He is going to get that position. He's going to concede it, but here comes the 42. He's going to take that shortcut again through the dog leg down underneath Kostek. He's looking for what is that 6th spot.
Gardner capitalizing and even almost getting underneath of Mullins for a brief second, but couldn't quite keep the speed up that much. Oh, the 3 somehow gets back ahead of him there on the high side, and the 42 will have to try again later. Still running down to the lower line as I'm seeing, it looks like a number of trucks are kind of migrating up the hill a little bit.
I think that they've realized the drive off of the corner, specifically off of turn number 2, it pays dividends down that back straightaway. So as long as you are patient, that is the key word, patience. If you are not patient, you will not get that drive off of the corner.
3 looks like he's quite patient. He is going to rebuff Gardner, who will settle back into 7th. So that's what we were talking about earlier. The higher up the order he goes, the more they're going to try and challenge him to hold on to that spot. And then behind them as well, that appears to be McCrary and Evans fighting for 8th position. And Evans to the inside almost has the job done.
He's going to try to slide up in front of that 83 there. Looks like he will do it. The 83 is going to say, all right, I'll follow you here for a little bit. Let's see what the 39 has got. Maybe he can go challenge Gardner and Kostek.
Now, the reason for them pushing as hard as they are is not just for championship points here for these top 5. The top 5 are automatically qualified for the Dash for Cash next week at Dover. So right now that's Cofield, McElwain, Ellingson, Pendleton, and Mullins.
Always nice to try to win that real cash here in the virtual world. Maybe pay off some of those entry fees and maybe even buy a milkshake or some cheeseburgers for dinner.
Absolutely. I believe it's going to be $60 they're going to be fighting for next time out. Doug Ellingson, the other Ellingson, that's Jacob up in the top 5. Doug is many laps down and is staying off to the side. Brandon Evans here now on board with him. Brandon versus Gardner. This should be a good one.
This has turned into a great, really, 4-car battle because it's kind of Mullins, Kostek, Gardner, and Evans. Include the 83 in that one as well as we ride on board the 39 in that awesome motion rig. I talk about it all the time, bouncing around there in the living room. pretty cool with those triple monitors in full motion. It's got to be a pretty neat experience.
Yeah, very jealous of that for sure. And Evans is trying to use it to the best of his ability to catch up to Gardner, but couldn't quite get side by side that time. Backs it down a little bit. Wonder if he's going to maybe recoup and cool the tires and then try again later. He can't wait too long, though. 26 laps to go.
I was just noticing that, and I gotta say, Jonathan Cofield is doing exactly what he did before as we check in on Ryan Pendleton. I've also been watching this battle, Joe. He's been hounding the 27 of Jacob Ellingson, just looking for any sort of way around, and 27 goes defensive here in 3.
Not sure if it was defensive or if he got a little bit loose there off of turn 2. And this time, diving to the inside, it's a question mark on if Pendleton was the one looser intending to go down to the bottom. He'll get a bit of overlap down into turns 1 and 2. Can he finish it up?
27 way wide there in 1 and 2. Can he get the drive off of the corner? Yes, he does. So he will hang on to the 3rd place position. Pendleton's hanging tough down on the inside, going to drive it way down there into turn number 3. Try to hook the bottom of the racetrack. Looks like he actually will have the position as they cross start-finish line, so Pendleton's still trying to work the bottom of the racetrack.
And that's in spite of it seeming like the top line has been desirable here late in the race. He can slide up in front, and that he does. Nice move by Ryan. That'll move him onto the podium.
Yeah, just kind of a wag of the tail from the number 23, slides up in front there, and like you were saying, onto the podium. However, look at the gap, a second up the road to McElwain in second.
I'm a bit surprised here. Granted, we haven't really seen anybody go counter on the strategy yet. It seems like track position's been so important. If we get a caution soon so that they have enough laps to take advantage, do you see anybody trying to pit to get fresh rubber?
Yes, I do. When I look at timing and scoring, last lap from our leader, a 29.5. His fastest, a 28.4. So there's definitely time to be made on fresh tires.
It'll all depend on if and when we get that caution, because if you take it a little bit too late, you're not going to be able to really utilize that fresh rubber as we go side by side between Evans and Gardner for that 7th position. That's Gardner up on the high side in the white and red, who gets the better shot once again. Evans down low, being pinched to the bottom. Going to try and fend him off.
I think it's the ebb and flow, though. Remember, Gardner was so fast early in this green flag stint, not quite following through here now that we're got about halfway through this green flag run. Evans still on the bottom side. I've always known Brandon Evans as one of the more calm and collected drivers. I think the tires usually come to him at the end of the run.
Nope. And he is going to clear around the outside as in front of them. That was a mistake out of Ellingson. Jacob going to give up the spot to Mullins. And that's not the first time we've seen a truck get loose off of turn 2. We are only 23 laps into the stint, so this isn't the farthest we've seen it get, but it seems some drivers have an easier time than others. And yeah, look at that wheel just saw back and forth.
Well, and do you see, when we've checked in on Jake Ellingson earlier, he's always been pretty calm behind the wheel, but he seems more frustrated than anything. Michael Kostek, look at this. We're going to go 3 wide down the back straightaway here. The 42 of Gardner has got the run. He's going to go to the inside of the 27. Just that white and blue truck really struggling for any sort of grip.
Wow. The Gardner is just nipping him in the bud here today as the 42 is now up into 5th with that one. He's into the dash for cash positions as long as he can keep Evans behind. But Jacob Ellingson is struggling and moving backwards.
Well, and I think that the black 3 of Kostek is saying, what the heck? I totally got boxed in, and I'm still boxed in back here because I believe that's McCrary now looking down to the inside as Ellingson gets on the racing line. I'm curious if he's used up the tires on that 27 truck or if he's still got something to race with.
Michael is at least going to be able to fend off McCrary. He'll get into 8th position as in front of them once again. Evans and Gardner carry on their battle. They both overtook a couple cars, and it's like nothing happened. They're still going at each other.
Yeah, that 39 truck was struggling for power down traction coming off of turn number 2. He's working the bottom of the racetrack. The 42 kind of more in the middle of the racetrack. Is this 27 still continuing to struggle and fall back?
Yeah, Kostek can at least get one. And in fact, I think McCrary also going to be able to get underneath Ellingson. Can at least maybe use that higher line to try and fend off the 83 here with 17 laps to go. Yeah, that looks like a much better exit for that white truck.
And I really wonder if the 27 maybe caught the wall somewhere. I know that you could lose pace if you really overdrive those tires and abuse them, but I wasn't expecting the fall to be so rapid.
I wasn't either. It could be, as you said, that just brushed the wall and maybe that knocked out the toe and it's just not handling as well as here we go again. Evans on the bottom of Gardner, who is going to rebuff him once more. How long can they keep racing side by side like this before they also start to lose the rubber?
I don't know. I feel like it kind of goes back and forth with which line is better, the top or the bottom. We've seen a lot of power down coming off of the exit of the corner on the top lane, but you see the 39 be able to drive it so deep on the bottom lane. I wonder, it's just going to come down to which driver saved the most amount of tire and then which lane they're using.
Falling back down the back stretch, Evans not getting the speed off of turn 2. For those curious, Cofield has just been unfazed up at the front. He's now up to 2.5 seconds ahead of everybody. It's the action. The action is back here with these two. And down to the inside, he's fully clear this time. Evans could drift up if he wants to. There you can see the lane in front of the 42.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see the 42 try to do an over-under, but he's not going to have the drive off to really poke the nose down. So Brandon Evans up inside of the top 5, and I think that he is going to start to pull away from this 42.
Oh, that was a wiggle out of the 42 coming off of turn 4 as well that time. So that did him no favors, and away pulls Brandon Evans. So this might be where that charge up the field stops for Jeremy Gardner. In the meantime, Tommy Cook back here in 11th, sandwiched between McManus in front of him and Cunningham behind him.
And number 9 of Trevor McManus was one of the more aggressive cars on corner entry, and once again you see him drive it down there into the entry of turn number 3. Then we see the number 200 car really close it up on the front straightaway here. It's just kind of which part of the racetrack do you want to be aggressive with?
Absolutely. Well, way up to the high side here for this one. That is very far high up line for this track. You heard Joey mention that tends to be what works in real life, and it does look like the latest of the oval refreshes that iRacing has done is making it work pretty decently well here today, at least in these conditions. Whoa, and a very loose moment there for the number 9, I think.
McManus is holding on to it, and he's still on the racetrack. He didn't lose any positions from that somehow. Had a huge loose moment there through the dog leg. See if this number 200 of Tommy Cook can maybe apply some more pressure. I know we don't want a late race yellow with 10 laps to go, but Jonathan Cofield 2.7 seconds out in front. He has held up the deuces to everybody else.
Indeed. And at 10 laps to go, I mean, do your thoughts change on that call for tires? Is this too late?
It depends on where you are in the field, right, Joe? I think that if you're in the top 5, it would be tough to make that call to come down. However, maybe if you're outside of maybe like 7th or 8th, and definitely 10th on back, I don't see a harm in doing it.
That's true. So could see some drivers roll the dice if we get a yellow here soon, but that window is going to close very quickly. There is our leader, Jonathan Cofield. Started from 6th spot. He had a few of these positions handed to him by penalties, by drivers making mistakes, getting tangled in others' issues. But sometimes you got to be at the right place at the right time. Let's hope that he'll be able to safely navigate Knights here, who is getting lapped in that 64.
The other car that I want to draw a little bit of attention to, because we haven't talked about him, is the number 82 of Alan Marshall. He's running by himself right now, but the reason why I say this is he's moved up 8 spots from where he started back here. He's currently running in the 20th, and he's actually one of our biggest movers in the entire field.
Yeah, the only driver I think that's gained more is Ellingson, who's still up 11, but we know he's kind of moving backwards, so they could meet in the middle on hard charger there if the trends continue. But Marshall off of the final corner is actually, I think, relatively close to being lapped here. But I think we're going to run out of race before he's caught by Jonathan.
Yeah, it's about a third of the track. I'm looking Cofield right now through 3 and 4. So Alan Marshall not in any sort of danger from our leader.
And if we do get a yellow, it'll get packed up to the back of them anyway. So unlikely to get lapped, at least how they sit currently, is the battle rages on down through the tri-oval once again. McManus has been Mr. Excitement today, maybe in some ways that he didn't want to be, and he's doing his best to try and find something past McCrary, who's caught Ellingson.
And I don't think it's just McManus as we watch the 83 of McCrary in that black and blue truck trying to get around this 27. Remember, the 27 was up there running second, third place position, has just had a hard fall throughout the field. I did see some notes here that he did smack the wall a couple times. So I think it's not just McManus, Joe, but Ellingson. There's a few drivers out there that are just kind of waiting for that checkered flag, hoping it comes sooner than later.
I mean, it's a good thing that this is virtual, because I'm sure racing in the sun here in Phoenix in real life would be just absolute torture with the heat. That said, the air temperature's not too bad. It's only 78 Fahrenheit out there. It's just the track surface that is just molten lava here today. In the meantime, Brandon Evans, who was fighting with Gardner's, left him in the dust and is now actually battling with Mullins.
I beat a dead horse with this number 39 all the time. He never shows his speed in the first half of the run. He's just cool and calm back there. He doesn't ever fight. And then here in the last 10 laps, all of a sudden he shows up.
Yeah, very impressive stuff out of that 39. Just about gets to the inside of Mullins, but no dice that time through. It's going to have to do something quick here because we're down to 3 laps to go. Going to be 2 here in just a moment. Yeah, he's going to try something as he gets aggressive down into turn 1, but can't outbrake his rival.
And if you're the 66, you got to be really careful. Look at him go all the way up the racetrack. But we've seen how loose these cars can really get. If a truck gets underneath you, you just have to manage what you got. Oh, we got a problem right in front of him. This might even collect him. Evans is going to get around him. Same thing with the 66. But that was Ryan Pendleton, one of our leaders.
And the caution comes out just as our leader rounds out of turn 4. If he had been just a little bit farther up the road, we would have not had a yellow there. So we are going to a green-white checkers for all the clean and fantastic racing. It all fell apart, almost stumbling to the finish line.
And what happened here? This was a car stopped on the middle of the racetrack, the number 68
Whoa.
of Stephen McDonald. And I'm not really sure what happened here, Joe, because this 68 has been way off the pace, and it actually looked like he had a problem in turns 3 and 4 this lap. And I don't know. This is just heartbreak for Pendleton for sure.
Okay, so I figured out what happened. He was trying to limp it home. This occurs almost a full lap ahead of where the incident was, where he slides it off of turn 2 and hits the inside wall. And you can see that the truck is not handling right. In fact, usually you're not steering to the right like that, especially through the tri-oval. And yeah, just going slowly. So we'd have to back it up even farther to the exit of turn 2 to really find where this all starts. Here it is. I think now we've got it.
Yeah, and so we're basically just going to smack the wall coming up off of turn number 2. Actually get the inside wall there off of turn number 2, and that's where all the heavy damage is. And then I expect he goes up and hits the outside wall as well, because he had no steering whatsoever on this truck, yet he decided to try to limp it back to pit lane and unfortunately bring out a yellow.
I could understand the frustration that I heard over the radio from a few drivers. 68 probably not making many friends, unfortunately, on that one. Although I do understand, especially, gosh, that would have been 3 laps from the finish, I think, when he had that accident. He probably just thought to himself, if I could just see the checkered flag here.
Well, and what's really interesting, Joe, is let's talk about what has unfolded since we've looked at those replays, right? I see 4 cars that have stayed out on the racetrack. They are all on 45 lap tires. That includes Daniel Cunningham, Ryan Pendleton, who was just involved in that wreck, Chuck Feltz, and Kyle Plumstead. Brandon Evans, who we saw, he is now in 5th place, the first car on fresh tires.
Wow. So he is sitting pretty. That said, we have 2 attempts at the green-white checkers. And real quick, for those that don't know what that is, this is overtime, as we said. The drivers will have to complete 2 laps to finish the race. If they get the yellow, if it comes back out before they reach the white flag, they'll restart it. They'll try another green-white checkers. And if that happens again, the race will be over. If they get to that white flag, the race finishes no matter what. And frankly, with 4 cars that are going to be desperately trying to hold them off, Joey, I don't anticipate that we're going to be able to finish this first green-white checkers.
I have a feeling it's going to get pretty chaotic here. These top 4 cars are going to have nothing in terms of grip compared to everybody else. They are going to get swallowed up real fast.
One last sponsor to bring us to the end of this race, and that is Red Beard Design Company. Red Beard Design Co. is a brand design and creative agency out of Greenfield, Indiana. They do brand identity, illustration, advertisements, apparel, packaging, and posters. All of GLR's logos since day one are the creation of Red Beard Design Company. So when you see GLR anywhere, you're seeing a Red Beard design. Let's see who sees the checkered flag today. Will Daniel Cunningham be able to hold them off up at the front of the field? Or will we see Evans charge past and be able to take a victory on the fresher tires? 2 laps to try and wrap this one up. Will we actually do so? Are we going straight back to yellow quickly here? Because, oh, look at them try to start it up. Oh, they are spinning and wrecking already. We didn't even hardly get past the start-finish line.
You know, this is it's part of racing, and unfortunately, old tires and new tires on a late race restart, those guys on the fresh tires behind, they were anxious to get going, and these old tires, they don't get going. You have to show patience. I think the 39 on the bottom side showed enough patience. Unfortunately, McElwain got into the car in front of him and then also tried to scoot up the middle. Chuck Feltz is the one that gets spun around.
Yeah, he couldn't muscle his way out of that one, unfortunately. And you're watching from the back of Feltz, just got knocked a little bit loose. And then from there, who are we riding on board with there?
Well, that was Evans. I'm curious if Evans physically got Feltz loose here by getting into the back of him. He's got fresh tires as well, but I really felt that he was being patient. Yes, he went to the inside, but I just don't know if there was contact or not. It is so tough to restart late on old tires.
He bumped into the back of him, but that looked long before any of them got on the throttle. So I don't think he knocked him loose. Yeah, so watching on board from Feltz here, looking back. Let's see.
And a lot of times, it can just be that one little moment getting upset. I don't know. That's really tough to put that one on the 39 behind him. I think that the 39 was trying to avoid. He predicted the wheel spin out of the 75 here, and it's just unfortunate to see for sure.
Yeah, it's a marginal call. I would not want to be in the steward's shoes on that one. It does kind of look like wheel spin from on board Feltz. Didn't look like a sudden thunk kind of knocking him out of the way, but regardless, this is going to give us one more attempt at the green-white checkers. If they don't manage to finish this one, that ends the race no matter what. And we're hearing that maybe, as we wrote on board, that he was kind of in the wrong gear here, actually.
Interesting. That'll definitely do it as well. Look at the RPMs way down low, and then he finally realized, yep, great catch by Eddie Smith, our producer. The RPMs were way down low. Chuck realized it way late, tried to grab third and then second, spun up the tires, and unfortunately, we see the result.
So he was the only driver of those that didn't pit that got punted to the back there. Cunningham and Pendleton managed to stay up there. No, I take that back. Plumstead was Plumstead also with them because he's suddenly down towards the bottom and in pit lane.
I believe he might have taken the opportunity to say, holy smokes, I'm going to get swallowed up. There's no point in being out here on these old tires. Come in and get the fresh stuff on as we see that number 22 truck come back out onto the racetrack. But I still feel, Joe, if you are on this old stuff, if you are Cunningham or Pendleton out front, you just have to hang on and make your line very visible to all these hungry sharks behind.
Yeah, you're right. That's exactly what he did. He got tires and has gone to the back of the field. So that's going to be a bad day for him because everybody else in front of him also is on fresh rubber. But right now, the best position driver in terms of tires is McCrary, starting from P3 in that number 83. Pendleton and Cunningham are going to have a monumental task ahead of them if they want to hold them behind. Frankly, I don't think it's possible. But if we do get a quick yellow, they could wind up winning this race. You never know. Let's see what the restart is going to look like. Is this going to be any cleaner with only 2 trucks now on old tires here up at the front? As we come around 3 and 4, looking for the green flag. And there it is. Green flag is out. Pretty decent jump there for Cunningham. He's going to need every inch he can get here off of the line as they fan out. And already those drivers on faster tires are swallowing up Pendleton.
Yeah, and we are 3 wide there here in turn number 2. Coming on out, and now Cunningham is going to get swallowed up. It's going to be the 53 of Jonathan Cofield on the top of the racetrack.
The man who led the second half of this race is coming back to the front now. If he gets the white flag, that will end it. A yellow flag will also end it. And we will finish this race fully here for the green-white checkers as he takes the white. Cunningham behind him about half a second back as we got a big wreck at the front of the field.
Yeah, we got problems with Evans and several other front runners. That's going to secure Cofield the victory. Daniel Cunningham also is loving what he sees in the mirror.
And a second incident as well coming off of turn 2 in the background as Cofield rounds the final corners. The 53 takes the win here today at Phoenix.
Jonathan Cofield rightfully in victory lane tonight. He dominated the last half of the race, drove away from the field a couple times. A late race restart was not enough to stop him. The number 53 victorious.
Boy, there are some drivers who escaped those accidents that benefited big time. Ellingson managed to climb back up into third. He had 16 from where he started. George Jewell wound up 10 positions up to finish 6th. And Stubblefield was 16 positions up from 24th to 8th today. Let's take one more look at, I think this is the replay. Looks like we're going to watch Ellingson try and dip and dive his way through the melee.
Yeah, and we saw a bunch of problems. I believe it was the 66, the 39, and the 83 that first got together in the dog leg, and then the 27 also had problems. Looks like the 27 actually got through there, so nice job from Jacob Ellingson. This is the issue on the back straightaway here. Just cars piling in. I see, about 6 or 7 cars, and then also backing up on the racetrack. Just a tough way to end it.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows there's not going to be a yellow, so they're trying to keep their foot in it as best they can. And Pendleton down low. So he gets loose trying to recover, and that's what causes that secondary incident. Somebody in the middle there in the blue and red threading the needle, and then, oh, wow, it's just a mess of wreckage, unfortunately, down to the end of the backstretch, backing into the middle of the track to boot. I think that is going to take us to the results, though, for this one. Certainly was a little bit messy at the end, but it was an exciting and well-raced race for the rest of it. And Jonathan Cofield wound up taking the win over Daniel Cunningham, who finished in second, and Jacob Ellingson really putting on a show there, finishing third. Jeremy Gardner, also great job climbing back up through the field. He gets fourth place because of his efforts. Kostek, our winner for last week, gets a top five. Will be the last of the drivers running for the Dash for Cash at Dover. George Jewell will be sixth, as James Kaufman was seventh, and then Timothy Stubblefield, as I mentioned. I think the hard charger of the race based on gained positions in eighth. Brandon Evans was ninth, and Mark McCrary was 10th.
Trevor McManus, after all that aggressive driving, ends up in 11th place. Matt Knights here in 12th. Kyle Plumstead in 13th after that late race pit stop. Then Mike Browning in 14th. Alan Marshall in 15th. Tommy Cook in 16th. Brandon Wallace here in 17th. Ryan Pendleton in 18th. Chuck Feltz in 19th. And Jamie Mullins in that number 66 in 20th.
That's the last of them on the lead lap. 21st, a lap down was Barkas, unfortunately. McElwain 22nd as well. Two drivers that were in contention for the win, not even getting to the top 20. Goshen was 23rd, 6 laps down, and then from there, it is all DNFs for the rest of the drivers. Our winner, though, Jonathan Cofield, ready to talk to us about this win. And first of all, Jonathan, let's talk about that last restart. Did you find the softest gloves you could to handle those two cars in front of you with those old tires on them?
Oh yeah, I already had it planned. I was getting to restart on the outside. If he spun his tires, I was gonna shoot high. So yeah, it kind of scared me. We didn't. Anytime you don't make it to the checker or the white flag and a caution comes out, hitting pit road, you don't know what anybody's gonna do. So I was like, screw it. I'm gonna take the gamble. I'm gonna go in and get 4 tires, and we'll see what everybody else does.
And that definitely was an interesting into it as well, because as Joey mentioned after the win, that was a deserving one, but you went from running the race for the second half of it to suddenly taking that gamble. So it seemed like a bit of an up and down story today.
Yeah, it was. Pretty good race though. I love Phoenix. I love the dog leg and all that. But I know the couple guys up ahead of us had trouble early. I think when I got behind the leader and was putting a little pressure on him, he spun out and got the wall. And six truck, he was real fast. He beat me off pit road that last time. And when we got caught up in all the guys that didn't pit, and I didn't know how I was going to get by him. But that big crash happened, and I got some front end damage, so that kind of threw a wrench in it too. Luckily it was still turned.
Yeah, that is good news for you. How did the truck feel in general? Because I don't know if you guys noticed, it wavered between 142 and 144 Fahrenheit on the track surface.
Yeah, it handled real good. These premier racing setups that they've so kindly given Goat Locker or sponsored for us. Truck handled real good. Kind of like the Gen 4 a little bit. Had to put the egg under the pedal, and especially coming out of 4 into to the flag stand. I was trying to run low, but on the long run, I was starting to spin a good bit there. So
Yeah, it's understandable considering the heat out there. Congratulations. Who helped put you in victory lane today?
I want to thank Goat Locker and everybody that runs the league, and Jam Printing Promotions for sponsoring our truck series. Of course, Premier Racing Setups got a team on the truck. Awesome guys over there. Thank you for what you do. Veterans for Life Foundation, Cruising Classics, Right Now Roofing, Red Beard Design Company. They've done some awesome logos for the Goat Locker guys. And as always, Cofield Asphalt Refinishing, Cofield Supply and Surface, SM Racing Products. Go check them out. Got some awesome button boxes. Sim Shop, and you guys at Podium for putting on such great broadcast.
Thank you very much. That was Jonathan Cofield, our winner here in the number 53. And on the opposite end of things, Daniel Cunningham was one of the few drivers that did not take fresh tires. Joey has caught up with that brave man.
Yeah, Daniel Cunningham, driver of the 08. Congratulations on second place tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So, How nervous were you when everybody else came down pit road? You opted to stay out on the racetrack. Were you confident in your stuff, or were you counting on aggression behind you causing more yellows?
It's definitely the latter of the two. I was counting on aggression because the amount of strategy that went into my decision when I saw everybody else in front of me pit was, oh, forget it, we're staying out and see if it works. I mean, I was kind of stuck in that 10th to 14th place all night. I know I'm going to miss a couple of races in the regular season, so it's kind of a, just go all in and see if we can steal a win somewhere as far as playoff purposes and stuff like that. So it's like if I go down pit road, I know I ain't got a shot at it, but if I stay out here and inherit the lead, you never know what might happen. And I was a lap away from getting what I needed. They needed to wreck a lap sooner there on the second green white checker, and I'd have been golden. But yeah, happy with second place, all things considered.
Well, and I gotta ask you, if you were nervous about everybody behind you and you were counting on them wrecking, how did you hang on with those old tires? Because you're sitting here in the second place position and you beat all of those new, fresh rubber tires behind you.
A lot of it's just trying to get the jump on the restart. I mean, if I would have came out in anywhere other than the lead, it would have never worked. Being in control on the restart and getting to dictate when everybody launches definitely helps. I know Chuck stayed out, and I think he was in third place behind me on that first restart and spun the tires. I spun the tires on the first restart a little bit. Um, yeah, I mean that's really the only way it works. If you come out anywhere other than the lead, you're basically a sitting duck, and even still, you're probably not gonna, you're probably not gonna come out on top if it goes green the whole way.
So, didn't have the best result there at Daytona. Looking forward, you got Homestead, Watkins Glen, Iowa lined up next. Second place puts you in that dash for cash. Is this more where we should expect you for the rest of the season?
I'd like to think so. I definitely not even just in the first race here, but in some of the other series that I run in, I haven't really had the results that I'm accustomed to or that I expect from myself. So here recently, it's just been kind of, let's run top 10, try to build on that, and then run top five, and then hopefully try to get up there and fight for wins. So I'd like to say yes. I hope that we see the Oregon Duck truck up there a little bit more. Hopefully get some better runs here.
Well, anybody you want to thank while we've got you here in the booth?
Yeah, appreciate all of our league sponsors, Jam Printing and Promotions, Premier Racing Setups, Veterans for Life Foundation, Cruising Classics, Right Now Roofing, and Redbeard Design Company. Appreciate them doing everything that they've done, and appreciate all my teammates over at Bandits. They help keep my head in. Because there's a lot of times I get frustrated with myself and get down on myself, and they all do a really good job of reminding me that I know how to drive. I didn't forget anywhere, so they're definitely really good cheerleaders. Learned a lot from all of them. So appreciate you guys doing the broadcast. They always look awesome. And yeah, just thanks to everybody that puts all the work into it.
Well, that was Daniel Cunningham with a fantastic night tonight here at Phoenix, coming home in second place.
And third was Jacob Ellingson, who snuck through the chaos there on the last lap to get himself that third place finish. Jacob, I mean, I don't know what lucky socks you had on or what, but I'd say keep doing that because they certainly came in handy there.
Yes, sir, they did. I wish I could say it was skilled driving, but it definitely was not.
So, talk to us though about the rest of the race because I mean, yes, this replay that we're going to be seeing on board of definitely helped you out a bunch, but we noticed from very early on you gained a ton of positions quickly.
It was mostly on the restarts from the cautions. I found a little bit of speed on the outside and in one and in one and two, and that's where I kind of stuck for the first few laps before I could get myself clear, then come down to the bottom and run my regular line um, for the race. And after a long caution or after a long run, we had a caution, then we pit, and then we were out had before the last caution, before the first green white checker. I didn't understand anything of what I was doing. I didn't do anything different from what I did on that first run, and then I was just falling back and falling back and falling back. It got pretty frustrating after a little bit, and then the green white checkers and the cautions just kind of lucked out.
we did notice you kind of struggling there for a little bit, and you did look pretty frustrated. But do you consider these mile tracks one of your strong suits? Because we're going to another one with Dover next time.
No, definitely not. These mile tracks are kind of one of my nemesis. That and Darlington. Darlington's another one of my nemesis tracks. But we'll work on them. Get some quality seat time in and see what we can do in the future.
Well, congratulations on a podium, especially going from 19th to third. Who helped you spray the champagne today?
Definitely got to thank everybody on my team, the Veterans for Life team, Brandon Evans, Jamie Perkins, Jamie Mullins, myself, everybody from the Goat Locker team, um, Jamie Barkus, Patch Travick, uh, Ryan Pendleton, and Cody McAlwain. Um, they're all good folks to race around and be with, and then definitely all the Goat Locker sponsors, Jam Printing Promotions, Premier Racing Setups, Veterans for Life, Cruising Classics, Right Now Roofing, and Redbeard Design Company. And then my always got to thank my daughter to that tunes in every week and watches, and is always a big supporter of anything iRacing.
Well, big shout out to her. And that was Jacob Ellingson, your third place finisher here today in the number 27. And let's not forget Cofield, Cunningham, Ellingson, as well. Gardner and Kostek will be your five competing for the Dash for Cash when we are back next week at Dover. So watch out for that one. That said, Joey, I'd say despite a bit of a messy ending, this was some exemplary racing today. I was really impressed with what we saw out there.
A very different race from Daytona, right? Not just the shape of the racetrack, the size of the racetrack, but just everything about it. We did have a few more yellows, but I don't feel like they interrupted from the racing at all. We still got to see the fastest trucks migrate towards the front. We saw some intense battling through the middle of the field. We saw lots of comers, lots of goers throughout the entire race. I don't think it detracted at all, those yellow flags, and ultimately, I think the fastest truck did end up in victory lane.
Yeah, it was good to see Cofield wind up the winner on that one with all the hard work that he put into that. But our hard work for tonight, at least, is done, but we're not done with the season. Let's not forget that we will be back for Dover on Friday, February 2nd at 8:15 p.m. Eastern. A huge thank you, though, to the team today, Eddie, Joey, and Dougie. And also, thank you for watching. However, until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.